Was that campfire chat weird for anybody else to watch? Because I feel like I was watching international spies try to hold down the Coca-Cola secret from being revealed to the world. Now, what I mean by that is I feel like they said a lot of things, a lot of words, without really saying anything at all. Now, they brought up some cool stuff, which we'll definitely get into, like the expansion, the new region, Nahantu. They brought up some endgame activities that they're going to be doing with Season 2, and they briefly touched on Season 3 leaderboards. But when the question of itemization and endgame and stuff like that really came up, I felt like they just kept repeating in different ways that it was coming and that it's being worked on, which I think is a completely fair and level headed response, right? When we're talking in terms of endgame and itemization, because we have been talking about this pretty much since Diablo 4 came out. It's the most hotly debated thing that's going on right now in Diablo 4, and I'm sure they want to make sure they have their ducks in a row, right? But I feel like they are so afraid, or maybe not confident in the community, to even tease the fact that they're making changes or tease the changes that they are doing. Because there's two sides of me, right? There's the simping coper and then there's the degenerate doomer. So the simping coper is like really relying on this interview that Rod Ferguson had with Force Gaming, basically talking about how he doesn't want to divulge in all the information or give too many leaks because they want to save it for the summer hype and the expansion release. So that makes perfect sense. And then there's the degenerate doomer side of me, right? That thinks, hey, maybe that was all their nut. Maybe they busted as much as they could this time around, and we have to wait till summer to see more. And this is just, Rod Ferguson basically being like, hey, and them saying, hey, we're working on some stuff, keep an eye out. Because when we compare this campfire chat to all of the World of Warcraft stuff, obviously they have more outlets, classic and retail, that they can create content from. But the content from that is like an overload. There is so many things happening, and they absolutely unloaded on us. And the retail expansions don't even come out till late 2024 anyways. So that's kind of like my logic and thinking, like, why wouldn't they do the same with Diablo 4? Why would they be so hesitant? Are they not confident in the changes? Because they could just set that up as an expectation. Essentially, they could say, hey, this is, the unfinished product. This is kind of like what we're thinking about. And then from there, they show teasers of crafting, itemization, things like that. And I think this would actually be a net positive, because then the community could go in and basically be like, hey, I don't know if that's going to work, man. And then, they can further tweak it before summer and the expansion comes out. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm just trying to get my dick hard. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at what WoW did, and I'm looking at what Diablo 4 did. And I don't even got a semi, over with Diablo 4. And maybe, the game obviously hasn't been out as long as World of Warcraft, so I'm keeping my expectations in check, but not even like a screenshot or anything like that. Just lay it on the table, just lop it on there for all the people to see, show some boldness in that sense. But, like I said, I'm keeping my expectations in check, and I'm looking forward to the summer, right? I'm not going to throw a tantrum about it. So let's talk about the stuff that they did announce, right? The new expansion, obviously, the thing we're looking forward to next year, is the expansion Vessel of Hatred. So it's going to basically continue on the Neyrelle stealing the Soul Stone with Mephisto in it, and she goes south to a place called Nahantu. So for anybody that doesn't know, I actually did predict this. Well, I didn't predict it, but I did bring it up in one of my videos of the leak of this before it was announced of Nahantu. And it's basically a jungly type area. So if you watch scary movies, think Green Inferno. And what you're going to basically be seeing here is just like a lot of foliage, a lot of different like Mayan type not agriculture, but architecture. And then you'll also come to places like Karast, which is the main town in the new zone. And this makes the most logical sense since we are in a game about Lilith initially, right? And so it makes sense to go after her papa next. And they did announce a new class, and this is kind of what I'm talking about, is like they were scared to just really like put their dicks on the table kind of thing. They didn't really say what the class was. The only thing they said is that it was a different from the classics, so no witch doctor, right? Nothing else from the previous Diablo games. So if this leak place is correct, which it was right for the majority of the stuff, we can probably expect to see something called the Spiritborn, right? The Spiritborn is essentially something like a cross between a Necro and a Druid type character, so I could see this kind of being cool. I feel like it's like a witch doctor, just instead of magic, they're like a warrior. So it kind of reminds me of like an Amazon, okay? If anybody remembers an Amazon. So an Amazon and a druid combined together makes a Spiritborn. So I think that has some potential to be like pretty cool. The next thing they kind of went into is like what they're doing for the end game and season 2 and stuff like that. So the first one is the new rings. These are actually kind of cool to me. They are basically unique rings that you'll be able to get off the boss Varshan, and they give you a power from the previous season mechanic, the malignant type mechanics. So for necromancers, for example, the automatic corpse explosion, you'll be able to do that again with one of the new unique rings for the necromancer. This is all very cool stuff. I think this is a ingenious way to bring back old content. One of my criticisms that I did have for the game was that the seasonal mechanics just go away after, so nothing is ever being permanently added. It's the similar retail WoW problem where nothing is ever evergreen. It is just basically powers and systems that go away once it's over, right? There's no permanence, there's no power carryover or anything like that. So I'm happy to see that they're doing this. It's going to add a lot of engaging gameplay. You'll be able to probably do builds that you couldn't do before with the addition of these new rings. The new sorceress ring, I think it's just going to make ball lightning that much more insane. I think that class is just going to be absolutely beyond broken if it isn't already, right? We'll also be getting a new event in Season 2 for the Season of Blood. It's the Abattoir of Azir's Journey. So they have like a little roadmap on like how they expect people to get to it and do the final season journey. But essentially this is a pinnacle boss, right? It is kind of like Uber Lilith or one of the Uber other bosses, except much harder. You'll basically have to have a fully min-max build to be able to do this boss. I'm expecting it to drop, obviously pretty good loot. And also it drops a unique glyph that you'll be able to use, so that's very cool. I love when they add more bosses to the game, more endgame type things to do. And the last thing they talked about in terms of endgame right now is the Midwinter Blight. They're basically going to be turning the Fractured Peaks into a snowy wasteland on December 12th. There's going to add some like additional quests, maybe some new cosmetics, and you already know there's going to be a premium MTX sexy Santa outfit that shows like 30% ass cheek. So I'm looking forward to that. This kind of confirms to me that they will have seasonal events more often. It is a live service game, so it makes sense. If anybody's played Destiny 2, during, the winter, they basically turn it into this snowy area. During Halloween, they'll add like pumpkins on stuff. So I'm looking forward to the future of that in Diablo 4 and just having fun with the holidays and seasons. It really makes the game feel more alive, and it just adds, another layer of flavor to it. So pretty happy about that. And the last thing they talked about is Season 3 and kind of their plans for it. The biggest announcement, in my opinion, from it was that they will be adding leaderboards in the form of gauntlet runs. So the gauntlet is essentially a zone that is exactly static. It stays the same, doesn't change, which I think is actually unique because you'll be able to strategize and like plan your route essentially to get the best times or get the best amount of speed through that clear. And people will be able to min-max, their adventure through that, and so they know what to expect, and makes the leaderboards more competitive in that sense. So very cool on that. And that's pretty much it. That's kind of the big stuff they talked about at the Campfire chat. Now, I just wanted to get my thoughts out there essentially. It looked like I was looking at scared puppies on a stage that were in front of an audience of animal abusers. It was very bizarre. It just felt like they didn't want to leak anything or say anything wrong or do it just the wrong way because the community would absolutely tear them apart. And I mean, to be fair, the community literally has done that, and so a lot of people still are doing that. I'm happy to say that Diablo 4 is on the up and up. They've turned it around a lot. I just wish they had a little bit more boldness coming into this, just really lay their dick on the table just for the whole world to see and just call it is what it is, because ultimately the people that don't like the game are going to go away from the game. They're not going to play it, they're not going to watch it, so they're not going to care. But the people that do still want to see this stuff. They still want to provide constructive feedback, and they just, want to be part of the Diablo 4 process as well. So let me know what you guys think of the Campfire chat. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a good one.